Hey, what's up guys? My name is Cal and welcome to the channel. Alright, if you gather up a bunch of Pokemon fans together and ask them who is the most forgettable gym leader, you're gonna find out real quick what generation or generations those Pokemon fans grew up in. I know for me personally, Gen 1, 2, and 3, I remember all of the gym leaders, but once it hits 4, 5, and beyond that, they're all kind of a hit or miss. So with over 70 or so official gym leaders, now that number could easily be more if you include the Islands Kahunas from Generation 7 or the minor league gym leaders from Generation 8, there's bound to be a few that are just plain old forgettable to just about any Pokemon fans. Now of course, I'm curious to see if you guys agree with my list or not, so in this video, I'm gonna go over 10 of the most forgettable gym leaders throughout the Pokemon video game series. Before we get started, I just want to do a quick reminder to help out the channel. Please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell. And with that, let's get straight into it. Alright, at number 10, I have Katy, the bug-type gym leader from Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. I know she's new, but unfortunately, she's just your average everyday baker, which makes her kind of forgettable in a generations where there's Eno the live streamer, Rhyme the rapper, and even Larry, who has a permanent I'm done with the world kind of look on his face. I mean, I get it, Katy has a fierce baker persona, but if you ask me, I think the developer kind of fell short with her given that her ace is a Terry Ursa and not a Fidough for some reason. I can't be the only one that felt that this was a missed opportunity. Anyways, Katy's gym challenge is overall pretty easy. You just kick the oval ball into the basket, and her actual gym battle is also a breeze as bug types are generally super easy to handle. Her personality doesn't really shine compared to the rest of the Gen 9 gym leaders, which only adds to her being kind of forgettable, but like I said, she's still pretty new, so that's why she's only at number 10. Anyways, moving on the list to number 9, I have Gordie from Generation 8. I was actually really close to giving Milo the spot here, but Milo at least shows up in both Sword and Shield, while Gordie only appears in Pokemon Shield. Besides that, Gordie is forgettable because he doesn't really have a personality. He has an awkwardly weird pose while you battle him, but other than that, I take him for someone who's pretty stoic, and I get the vibe that he works really hard to become a Pokemon trainer. Gordie also uses Rock-type Pokemon, which fits him pretty well, but Rock-types are usually reserved for the very beginning of the game. You know, when you don't really have a ton of options to deal with their high defenses. Him being in the middle of the pack as a 6 gym leader doesn't really help his case out at all, mainly because you'll have a lot more options to deal with Rock-types at this point, which makes Gordie a very easy gym leader. Unfortunately, being the son of Melody only overshadowed him even more, because I can guarantee that people remember Melody way more than Gordie by a large margin. And at number 8, I have Janine. She's the daughter of Koga, and she took over the Fuchsia City Gym when Koga stepped down to become a member of the Elite Four. Unfortunately for Janine, she's been stuck in Koga's shadow ever since that happened. She showed up in a total of 3 games, which is way more than some of the gym leaders on this list, but it doesn't help that she ends up feeling like a Koga 2.0. I mean, their teams are very similar to each other, with both having a Venomoth, a Crobat, and an Ariados on their team. Janine in general just lacks diversity. She had 2 Weezing on her original team in Gold, Silver, and Crystal, while in Hard Gold and Soul Silver, they replaced the second Weezing for a second Ariados, which doesn't really help her diversity issues at all. At the very least, her Black 2, White 2 World Tournament team is pretty solid. That team differentiated her to focus more on speed, while Koga is traditionally more defensive. Overall, Janine is originally a carbon copy of Koga, which is why I find her to be forgettable. For the 7th slot on this list, I have Juan from Pokemon Emerald. Juan is actually a pretty interesting character to me. He is a mentor to Wallace, who's the region's champion during the storyline of Pokemon Emerald. Unfortunately, considering how important he is to Wallace's upbringing, Juan doesn't really have any screen time at all with the champion, as he's relegated to gym leader duties as Teutopolis Gym. The thing about Juan that makes him forgettable to me is that his team doesn't really highlight some of the better water types that are available in the Generation 3 games. He's not an easy gym leader per se, but they could have done better to spruce up his team instead of making it really similar to Wallace's gym leader team. I think the major points to why most people forget about Juan's existence in the first place is because he only really shows up in Pokemon Emerald, and while his appearance in the Black 2 and White 2 World Tournament is nice, there's not much of a development in his characters that is worth remembering by. Now for the number 6 spot, I have another Gen 2 gym leader. This time it's one of the early 8s, and he's the Ice-type gym leader, Pryce. Pryce is quite old, which makes him hard to relate to, and it's why I think he's often forgotten about. It also doesn't help that Pryce is only used as a stepping stone to advance in the story. Let me explain. In the Generation 2 games, Mahogany Town is home to the notorious Team Rocket's hideout. To advance in the story, you have to raid their secret base, and then after that, beat Pryce to enable the flag for the infamous Radio Tower invasion, albeit you're collecting the badges in order. This was pretty much the climax of the Team Rocket story, making it the main attraction, while Pryce is no more than a mandatory side quest. Also, his battle is not all that impressive either. He has a seal and a dugong, both of which are pretty mediocre in their own way. His ace is the pillow swine that all 3 of the starters can easily handle. In a generation where Whitney and Morty exist, Pryce does not compete at all. Now, he's supposed to be the teacher of Winter's harshness, but in-game, we're the one teaching him a lesson for being in our way. Alright, and swooping in at number 5 is another gym leader from the 3rd generation games. This time around, it's Winona of Fortree City, who uses flying type Pokemon. Just like Katy, Winona is forgettable because she's the least interesting one out of the roster. At least with Juan, he somewhat has a flamboyant personality, but Winona in general is a pretty dull person. I can't tell you what kind of person she is just by looking. All I can assume is that she has flying type Pokemon from the feathers on her cap. Now, although her city has a pretty cool concept, being a city on top of a forest, there is really not much to do there, plus her gym is easily missable because it's hidden behind tall trees, and there's also an invisible Kecleon blocking the path. Fun fact, she's one of the gym leaders that you can entirely skip and come back at a later time if you're playing on the original Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald. Now for me, I remember her Altaria being hard to deal with because it has Dragon Dance and Earthquakes, which makes it hard for Sceptile and Blaziken users. But other than that, if you're having trouble with her, you can always come back later. Next up is number 4, and I have Byron, the Steel-type gym leader from the 4th generation games. That's Diamond, Pearl, and Platinum, as well as the remakes Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. Unfortunately, middle-of-the-pack gym leaders are never in a good position for anyone to remember them, and Byron is no different. Now, Byron is a gym leader that I vaguely remember, and more often than not, I tend to forget his name altogether until I actually talk to the guy. He's often his own little corner of the world, and the only reason you would ever visit Byron is so that you can eventually proceed to the snowy parts of the Sinnoh region. As a Steel-type gym leader, he's probably one of the weakest ones purely because half of his team shares a weakness to water types, and that's including his rematch team throughout the years. Byron is a combination of simple design, boring personality, and unimpressive team cultivated into a gym leader, and honestly, that's all I have to say about him. Moving on to number 3 is Olympia from Pokemon X and Y. Honestly, Generation 6 has so many forgettable gym leaders that I had to hold myself back, otherwise I would have put most of them on this list. Regardless though, Olympia is one of those gym leaders that I could never remember on the top of my head. She's all about the faith and future in the cosmos, at least that's what I picked up with the limited amount of text she was given. However, she has a pretty cool gym layout and puzzle, but it's just a fancier version of teleport tiles. Olympia definitely has one of the most unique designs for a character in Generation 6, I'll give her that, but for a psychic type gym leader, she doesn't really have an aura of fear like with Sabrina from Generation 1, nor is she fun to battle against like with Tate and Liza from Generation 3. Speaking of battle, Olympia's battle is laughably easy. Her ace is the Meowstic, which is a Pokemon you should have seen plenty of on regular trainers as well as your rivals at this point in the adventure. For a 7th gym leader like herself, Olympia feels like a regular trainer more than anything else, which is a shame because Psychic type is one of the hardest hitting type in the game. Anyways, for the second to last slot on this list, I have Marlon from Pokemon Black 2 and White 2. Marlon is my pick for the second most forgettable gym leaders of all times because honestly, he's just so-so on so many levels. I always catch myself with one of those, oh yeah, he's a character moment when it comes to Marlon because this guy just comes and goes as he pleases. I think he doesn't really catch anyone's attention because he's the guy right in the middle of the pack. He's not the best at anything, nor is he the worst at anything either. He has that chill surfer dude personality that works really well as a comic relief. He's also a knockoff Aquaman, to which I personally think it's one of his better features. For the story of Black 2 and White 2, Marlon is in his own little corner of the world, and like with pretty much all of the other Gen 5 gym leaders, Marlon ends up helping out the protagonist at some point with Team Plasma, and then he just disappears. Now his teams of Pokemon, it fits him pretty well. He is an ocean fisherman, so having Caracosta, Wailord, and Jellicent makes perfect sense. Although if you ask me, I completely forgot about his Jellicent and assumed that his Caracosta was his ace. And finally, for the number 1 spot on this list, I have yet another Gen 6 gym leader, and this one is infamous for being one of the most forgettable gym leaders of all time. I'm gonna be real, this guy was my inspiration to make this video, and it's none other than Ramos. Within the Pokemon community, Ramos is pretty down there as one of the least popular gym leaders. More often than not, he's always on somebody's top 5 worst lists, and I can totally see why. Now, his gym is a massive tree that you must climb. Although fun to swing around, it gets tediously slow after a couple levels, plus there's a puzzle element to it where you have to pick the right path. The whole experience is just a slow climb to the very top of the tree. Your reward is a battle with Ramos, and he's not all that strong either. He uses grass-type Pokemon, which are fine, but his roster is Jumpluff, which is easy, Weeping Bell, which is not a victory bell, and then there's Go-Goat, which is actually a pretty decent Pokemon. His personality is that of a typical old man, and it's a guarantee that he'll call you a whippersnapper at one point. The problem with Ramos stems from the points that I've already made from the previous gym leaders mentioned on this list, but let's recap anyway. Ramos is one of the middle-of-the-pack gym leaders, which adds to his obscurity. He's old, which makes him less relatable, and on top of all that, he's not that difficult of a gym leader, meaning you would breeze through him like grass blown from the wind. Alright, and that's it for my top 10 most forgettable gym leaders. If you made it this far, hey, thank you for watching. If you can, please leave a like, a comment, and subscribe. Hey, let's aim for 11 likes on this video, and with that all said, I'll see you guys later.